meeting of Alexander County Board of Commissioners into session. At this time, I'd ask everyone to please rise, and I will call on Commissioner Milton Campbell, who will give the invocation. Vice Chairman Ryan Mayberry will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day you've blessed us with, Lord. We thank you for the health you bestowed upon us. Thank you for the many and countless blessings you've given our county. Lord, we ask your guidance as we make decisions tonight, that they be in the best interest of all citizens of Alexander County. Lord, we ask you continue to put a hedge around the safety of our employees, our law enforcement officers, and others that travel throughout our county. Lord, we thank you for all you've blessed us with. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Just keep coming on up, Anthony. Keep coming on up. Just come on over here if you don't mind, please, sir. And I can take care of this. I like your timing. You did very well, sir.
I apologize for cutting it close.
That's all right, sir. No problem.
And traffic was heavier than
and fog and rain.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us tonight the Executive Director of the Western Piedmont Council of Government, Anthony Starr. Anthony has been in this position for about the days the 12th.
Yeah.
So he's actually been in this position for 12 days on his own, and it's a pleasure to have him here tonight. And I appreciate the job that he does for the Western Piedmont Council of Governments. And at this time, Anthony, I'll let you have the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. I appreciate the chance to speak with you today. Alexander County is always a place that I really love to come to. Some of you know I grew up just across the river and catfish, so I'm very familiar with the county here, and always a pleasure to come over here, and we certainly appreciate the support that Alexander County's always provided to the Council of Governments. Our mission is to serve our local governments, our 28 local governments, and certainly Alexander County's been a strong supporter through the years. And some of our new commissioners, and welcome and congratulations on your election, may not know yet, or I'm sure you probably do know something about it. The board enacted an EMS response study, being good stewards of the county's money, to try to determine what needs there were there for your EMS response, where things need to be improved. And so we looked at that, studied their responses. Your EMS staff was wonderful to work with. And we provided some options for you in terms of how to address some of the needs. You certainly have a very good response rate, above average response rate in the county. As this study showed, though, you have the problem with some response times in certain areas being lengthy, over 8 minutes, because of the lengthy travel times to transport patients to a hospital, having to go to either Fry or Catawba Valley or Iredell or even over towards Caldwell. And so that shows up on the back end of this study, shows those times when the EMS crew isn't back in service from those calls. And it showed you a mapping of where those trouble spots were, and gave you clear 3 identified areas where, at the appropriate time, when you balance all the other needs of the county government that you have, to where you could look at citing new EMS units. And so that gives you the information that you need to make the best decision with the limited resources that you have. And we were thankful to be able to help you with that study. We submitted this study to the National Association of Development Organizations, which is the National Association for COGS, and it was selected as one of the 2014 Innovation Awards. And so I wanted to come by today and give this award to you. You should be pleased with it. Give Alexander County some publicity and different reaches of the United States. And it's always good to highlight one of our counties like this. And so I congratulate you on this award, and I just want to formally present that to you tonight. So,
very good. Thank you, sir. We do appreciate it.
Sure.
And so that you'll also know that, Anthony, we have implemented the programs as a, okay, we have implemented the program with our emergency services, our ambulance service. We've implemented this program to a degree where our director, our acting director at this time, and our emergency services director, Russell Green, they've implemented a program now where they are doing something in Stony Point and Wittenberg with part-time and full-time personnel.
Great.
So we're in the process of doing that now, and I don't know whether we completely started yet or not, but due to this study and with the actions of our emergency services, we have implemented programs to try to have a faster, more responsible response. So we, on behalf of the county commissioners, I'd just like to say thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Yes,
Thank
sir. One more? All right. Good deal.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know we throw a lot of acronyms around. It might be a good idea if you tell people what the COG is exactly.
Well, it's the Western Piedmont Council of Government. It's where the Unit 4 area, Burke County, Caldwell County, Alexander County, Catawba County, the COG represents all 4 of those counties. And it is the strongest COG, Council of Governments in North Carolina. We have an extremely well-ran COG, Council of Governments, and they do things to assist local governments in doing their things that they need to do throughout the year. For instance, they can provide different services. And Anthony, if you want to tell a little bit more about the services y'all provide, it would help me because I know what they are, but sometimes I don't remember. But they did this study for us because when we were looking at it, there was some talk about just go ahead and add one here, add one there, and I'm like, no, let's do this study. But Anthony, there's other programs that you all are getting ready to implement that are going to help the local governments, especially small rural towns like Valdez and Rhodhiss and Taylorsville, if you'd like to elaborate.
Sure. So I didn't intend this to turn into a commercial for the
Right, I
COG.
understand, but we need for it to be a commercial. It's your first opportunity
I'm
for
all-
people to get to see you.
I'm always glad to brag on the fine staff that you have at your COG. It's a wonderful team of folks that's been built up over years, and we provide a range of services from grant administration. A lot of your economic development grants that you see go in our 4-county area, almost all of them are administered and written by us. And we've literally, over the years, secured hundreds of millions of dollars for our 28 local governments in our 4-county area. That is one of the more prominent things. We do your transportation planning for the 4-county area. We also do land use planning for a number of towns in Alexander County. We've done a number of small area plans for other counties as well. We also have aging services, workforce development training, Section 8 housing, where we provide housing vouchers for the low-income folks, 1,074 families there we assist in the 4-county area. Foreclosure prevention has been a very popular program that we've done recent years, and we've helped over 600 families in the 4-county area keep their homes. And that has a tremendous benefit to our local governments, both from maintaining that tax base, but also maintaining viable neighborhoods and making sure property values are stabilized, is more stable than they would have been otherwise. So there's the range of programs. GIS, we certainly did do that. In fact, we helped create Alexander County's GIS program a number of years ago. So there's a wide range of programs, probably close to 100 different projects and programs we're administering at any given time. So our sole purpose is to serve as a clearinghouse of resources for our local governments, where one local government might not have the resources to have this service on their own. Together, we are certainly stronger and have ability to provide those services more efficiently and effectively. So thanks for the chance to explain that.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here, and good luck in the coming years with your new position.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we also have several other special presentations. And what I'm going to do at this time, I'd like to ask Deputy Heath Pennell, Deputy Lee Hoyle, Deputy Aaron Millsaps, if they'd come down here to the podium, please. Several weeks ago, there was an incident that occurred in Alexander County. at the restaurant here out on Three Forks Church Road. This rest home had caught fire. The lady the room that it caught fire in, she set the bed on fire. Most of you read about this in the newspaper. The folks that were there that were supposed to be taking care of the patients left. One, because he had some problems with law enforcement, and he took a hike. The other one left to go get a pack of cigarettes. The alarm came in, and local law enforcement, and when I say local law enforcement, I'm talking about the Alexander County Sheriff's Department and the Titusville Police Department. These gentlemen arrived on the scene. Some of them were injured by trying to get the folks out. They were able to get all these people out, along with our EMS followed up and were there. Different fire departments were there. But the people that were there first, there was 5 law enforcement officers that got there first. They started evacuating the folks and getting one out. They went over and above and beyond the call of duty. Having been a law enforcement officer, I know that sometimes you do things, you don't even think about it, you just do it, because that's what you're there for. And in this day and time, when the fact that our law enforcement personnel are not getting the credit that they're due, bothers me quite a bit. Police officers are there to help us. They're there to assist us. And they're the ones that we call when we need someone to come out and look after us and protect us. And they always come. They always show up. And they're always there. And in this day and time, we need to show a little more respect to our law enforcement personnel for the things that they do, for our emergency service personnel. And if most of you think about it, whenever we were small kids and whenever we had kids of our own, the one thing that we always taught our children, if you have a problem, when you see a police officer, go to that police officer. He's there to help you. And he will help you. He'll take care of you. And he'll get you the help that you need to be able to take care of the situation that you might be in at that time. And for some of the things that's going on in the United States right now, and the way some of our law enforcement officers are being treated, it's just totally uncalled for. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Because one thing that you can say about them, they're always there, and I appreciate the job that they do, putting their life on the line each and every day. They go to work every night, every morning, or whenever they go. There's no guarantee they're coming home that night. There's no guarantee they're going to see their family. But, you know, by the grace of God, they make it home. Some do, some don't. But we were very fortunate that night that only a few of our police officers had some minor injuries, and they were very minor injuries. And with everything that went on that night, I just want to commend every one of you for the job that you do and for what you did that night. We've got some letters of recognition for these officers. I'm going to read what it says. In each one of you's names, it says to Deputy Aaron Millsaps, to Deputy Lee Hoyle, and to Deputy Heath Pennell. The date is January 12, 2015, fire at the New Outlook Assisted Living Facility. The Alexander County Board of Commissioners would like to present a letter of commendation and acknowledge your heroic actions taken on December the 17th, 2014, involving a fire at the New Outlook Assisted Living Facility in Titusville. Your fearless actions undoubtedly saved numerous lives at this facility. It is important that you know that your good deeds and excellent work are not going unnoticed. Thank you for all you do every day. You can take pride in knowing that your efforts positively affect the quality of life of Alexander County. Thank you, and it's on behalf of the Alexander County Commissioners, and we'd like to present these letters of recommendation to you all for the job that you do. And I know that you do your job, and most time you don't even look for recognition. But we do appreciate what you do and the job that you did that night. And I just am tickled that y'all were able to be there and save these people's lives, along with the 2 Titusville police officers and these gentlemen in the back there, and they're with us tonight. One of them is Kevin Elder. I've known Kevin a long time. He drove me to the hospital one night. And the other one is Tyler Land. And these gentlemen, you did a good job, gentlemen, and I appreciate the job that you all do. Of course, you know that, but I want you to tell you too. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Y'all step out here. Y'all look sharp too, I'm telling you, look good. Good job.
Look young.
Yes.
Say, we got another.
Oh, okay, you just come on, man. Absolutely. One, two, three. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Chris, thank you. Sheriff, Chris Ball. I always say Chris. Chris and I've known each other since we used to work together, so I have a hard time sometimes saying sheriff. Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I want to thank each and every one of you for thinking of these officers. That night on December 17th, I think it was early morning hours, they was at the right time, at the right place, so to speak. And for the commissioners to remember, you know, what is going on with not only our office, but like you said, the Tulsa Police Department. And Larry knows, we've been around a long time, that we've always had a excellent working condition, not only the PD, the Highway Patrol, probation, everybody. Because if one agency needs help, I can guarantee you all of them's going to join in. So again, I just wanted to thank you, the commissioners, for what you did tonight to these officers. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does any of our commissioners have anything they'd like to say?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, this is a little lighter note, but I had my 4 and 5-year-olds in my car early this afternoon, and we were behind a deputy. And somehow we got to talking about my 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and I got to talking about policemen and what they do. And the best way I could describe to my 4-year-old and 5-year-old what a policeman does is they protect us from the bad guys. And my daughter said, or like if a polar bear comes. And I said, yep, if a polar bear came, they'd take care of it. And then my 4-year-old son said, so they're like Ninja Turtles. And I said, yes, sir, they're like the Ninja Turtles. He said, because they fight the bad guys. I said, yep. That's it. So if nothing else, there are at least two children in Alexander County that think policemen are cool like Ninja Turtles. And so just wanted to share that with you. And I appreciate what you do.
Anyone else?
I just want to thank you guys. You did a great thing, and you know, you saved a lot of lives and changed people's lives that day. So we appreciate it. Well deserved.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and we do appreciate the service that you give. You don't always get told we appreciate it, but trust me, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Does anyone on the commissioners have any commissioner report they'd like to give tonight? All right. You have the agenda before you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is.
So moved.
Motion made, second. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. The first item on the agenda tonight is public comment. Madam Clerk, no one signed up to speak tonight. Very well. Item number 2 is the 2014 audit report for Alexander County. And at this time, I'd like to call on Chris Costner, Senior Audit Manager for Martin Starnes and Associates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I know it seems a little odd to be talking about 2014 this far into 2015, but we're going to talk a little bit about the results of our audit, and you've got a pretty busy agenda, and I know you have a copy of the presentation that I'm about to provide, so some of this is really more for your reference, your future reference, so we're going to kind of go through some of this fairly quickly, but we do need to talk about some of the highlights of the audit. Anytime that you have an audit, the objective of the audit is to issue an opinion on your financial statements. We issued what was called an unmodified opinion. And anytime that you have an audit performed, you want a modified opinion. What that means is your financials, as they're presented, present fairly the results of operations and the financial position of the county. So there's no except for this, they're fairly presented, or except for that. It's an unmodified opinion. I'd like to make sure, I think Jennifer and her staff, they have to try to do their day job and accommodate us as part of the audit process, and they've been a pleasure to work with and have given us everything that we've asked for in a timely manner. Unlike some of the things we rely upon the state for, that's kind of why your audit's being presented a few months later than normal. There have been some delays at the state level with some confirmations and things of that nature. So got it done as quickly as we could, but we were kind of at their mercy this year. And I would like to say, once you get the final printed copies of the audit reports, they've been submitted, they've been approved by the Local Government Commission. You met the extended reporting deadline. They extended everybody's deadline this year by about a month, a little over a month. And so everything's been in, it's approved, and the audit process is complete. And there were no internal control findings as a result of our audit. This is a slide. There's several slides throughout the presentation that are really just for your reference. Once you get into your budget workshops and when you get your final reports, you can kind of go back and see how things fell out. The revenues, basically we just have a slide that outline what your major revenue sources are. If I had last year's slide and were to put it side by side, it'd probably look very similar. No surprise that your taxes, your property taxes are your single largest revenue source for your general fund. Then you have your local option sales tax, which are the articles of sales tax that the state collects and remits to you on a monthly basis. And you can see how everything else kind of falls out. Next slide. Ad valorem taxes. The next few slides we're going through and basically just breaking out the revenues and comparing them 2013 to 2014 for your major revenue sources. I'd like to point out on your ad valorem taxes, your taxes are up a little bit. That's primarily due to the change in the motor vehicle collection procedures, some timing issues there with that. So you can see how that stacked up 2013 to 14. Next. Sales tax, again, these are the articles of sales tax we talked about earlier. You can see how those stacked up in 2014 compared to 2013. When you're talking $6 million, fairly flat when you're only looking roughly a $140,000 change. Next. The restricted intergovernmental, I wish we would just put the word grants. That's just a nice, long, convoluted way of saying, here's your grant revenue. And you can see that was very, very flat. This includes like your DSS allocations and things you get from the state also. So that's how that fell out 2013 compared to 2014. Expenditures, this is the same pie chart. Rather than looking at revenues, we're looking at expenditures. And when you're going through and looking, we've broken out the various functions of government. For the most part, those are fairly self-explanatory, like your public safety function is going to be your police. Your human services is going to be your Department of Social Services and your health department, so on and so forth. Education is the allotment you give to the Community College Board of Education. General government's kind of your hodgepodge of, that's your tax office and the commission. There's actually a department for the commissioners that they account for on the books. That's how the category of government that would fall in. Next few slides are just taking the larger functions of government and comparing them this year to last. When you look at human services, I would like to point out you didn't have any budgetary violations for any of the information we're presenting. So if you're seeing an increase, it was a budgeted increase this year over last. So hopefully no surprises there. You can see human services in 2013 compared to 2014. Next, public safety. Well, obviously the detention center, its operations for 2014 being, a full year of operations, you can see that the public safety function was up quite a bit, but it was budgeted to be up quite a bit. Next, education, that's purely a budgetary transaction. I would like to point out that there was a one-time allocation in 2013, a capital allocation to CVCC. So it's not like continuing, your funding for continuing operations decreased significantly. 2013 skewed a little bit because of that one-time capital grant. Debt, we always like to throw a slide in here about debt. When you get the financials, your debt is outlined very thoroughly in the notes to the financials by individual issue and then by type. But we just wanted to give you a general idea of what your governmental debt was, and you can see that came in at about right at 14 million, 13.929 million at the end of the year. We've also, just for future reference, just kind of given you a year of when your final debt service payments are due on by function, so you can kind of see where that's going to drop off in the future. Fund balance. Fund balance is first question we get. Where's my fund balance wind up? Where'd my fund balance wind up? Just want to make sure this slide is really just for your reference. Just understand when you're looking at your financial statements, you're looking at your general fund, that not all fund balance is created equal. So when you're looking at those categories down there, if you see something that is restricted, that means that a third party has said you must expend these dollars in this manner. A great example is grant funding. You apply for grant funding, you have to spend it, regardless of how you want to spend it, you have to spend it in compliance with what the grantor states. When you see committed or assigned fund balance, you as a governing body may have attached some strings to it, but you can also uncommit and unassigned fund balance. It has strings attached, if you will, but they're placed upon it by you guys, and if you see unassigned fund balance, it has no external or internal constraints placed on that fund balance. Next. We always like to give you the calculation that the Local Government Commission uses as far as how they define available fund balance. And I always like to do that because internally, we do a lot of audits. Internally, units, they kind of have their own jargon, and this is what we consider our available fund balance to be. But if you're ever comparing yourself to other units, you need to understand how the Local Government Commission calculates it, because that's the basis for all the statistics and things of that nature that they publish. So always make sure you're comparing apples to apples, and here's how they calculate your available fund balance. When you look at your fund balance results for the general fund, your fund balance did decrease. Didn't decrease as much as you budgeted for it to decrease, but it's still a decrease. Your fund balance percentage, which we talked about a little earlier, is at 19.2%. We do not have 2014 fund balance information yet, but based on 2013, your peer group was around 27, 28%, and you're sitting there at 19%. And basically what 19% fund balance means, available fund balance, just basic math, 8 times 12 is 96, so you're sitting there at 20%, that's about 2.5 months worth of fund balance in reserve. So that kind of puts that in perspective. Next. We just talked about how to calculate your available fund balance. You can look at that calculation this year compared to last. And as you can see, your available fund balance decreased. It actually decreased a little more than your total fund balance. And that just has to do with, like we talked about before, different categories of fund balance. The state stabilization by state statute is just a kind of a fancy way of the state saying you can't appropriate fund balance for receivables until you receive the money. And so your receivable balance went up a little bit, a little higher than it was last year, therefore your available fund balance went down, because you can see how the dollar amount's calculated there. Next. That was primarily your general fund in a nutshell. Everything else, we've got some slides in here for your different enterprise funds. Just don't want to forget you've got water and sewer, or water, and you've got your landfill out there. So I'm not going to read you all of this information, but if you look for your solid waste fund, we're showing just certain key indicators, your cash, your net income or loss, and what your debt balance was for your solid waste fund. Next. Net position, when you go through and you look at that, you're actually showing a positive total net position, but all that being said, you've got the post-closure liability, a big liability out there that over time you're going to have to fund, and so on and so forth. So just when you're looking at your solid waste fund, just understand that there's a pretty substantial liability out there for the closure, post-closure. Next. The water funds, we've broken that out for you. Anytime that you're looking at your enterprise funds, enterprise funds, kind of a fancy way of saying these funds really should operate like a business. The cost of providing the service should pay the revenue generated from providing the service should pay all the cost of providing the service, unlike your general government functions where your property taxes pay for that. I mean, You got certain things that you have to provide that you don't have a corresponding revenue necessarily specifically for. So your enterprise funds, your water revenue should cover the cost of operating your water fund. So there's some information that we've presented for your county water and sewer and Bethlehem water. If you refer back to the previous slide, there was some information on there about cash flow and things of that nature. I will, one thing I always like to caution people to look at is always look at your cash flow statements for your enterprise fund. You want to make sure that your operations are generating enough cash to pay for operations, and also ideally to set a little bit aside for future maintenance and expansion and debt service and things of that nature. Net income is great, but cash is quote unquote what keeps the doors open. So it doesn't matter how much money you're making if you're not collecting and it's not being converted to cash. So I just like to point that out. You can go ahead and next slide. Debt, we presented the governmental fund debt earlier. This is just your a summary of your outstanding enterprise fund debt for Bethlehem Water and your county water and sewer. We also included what your payments were for this last fiscal year, just to give you a general idea. And there's your year that your debt will ultimately be paid off in those funds. Next. That's really all I have. Again, it's a little odd to be talking 8 months after year end about last year's fiscal audit, but again, we did the best we can do with the timing of the information that we needed in order to complete the audit. Everything as far as what I'm required to stand up here and tell you, I can basically say no news is good news. There's nothing I'm required to communicate to you as a board with regards to findings that we had or things of that nature. So everything clean, unmodified opinion, and that's really all that I have. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Well, I have one comment and then a question. The fund balance is at 19.24%, and if you recall, a few months ago, there was, during an election going on, that it was being characterized as, and I'll use this because this question was asked of the new commissioners, with the fund balance at dangerously low levels, and we're at 19.24%. That's not a dangerously low level, far from it. But I would like to see this board work to try to get the fund balance back up to, say, 25% going forward over the next 2 years. One question I did have was on the general government expenditures. Got that listed at 18%. What all does that include as far as expenditures?
If you go through, I'm going to flip back to the financials here. So when you get your financials, you're going to have a budget to actual schedule in the back, just for future reference. And the general government function includes the governing body function, the admin department, planning, elections, finance, the tax office, IT, register of deeds, license plate agency, the public buildings department, garage, human resources, and court facilities is all of what's included in the general government function. And when you get your financials, that'll be on your general fund budget to actual. And for any function, it'll tell you exactly which departments are in that function, and that'll start on roughly, when you get your final report, it'll be roughly page 68, 69 of that report, general fund budget to actual.
Well, I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to ask it anyway. The purchase of the CVCC, the new property that we made, the capital expenditures for the expansion here at CVCC, does that fall under general government expenditures, or does that fall under education expenditures? Where does that show up at? Do you know?
I'm going to defer to Jennifer. We do so many of these different things. Typically, something along those lines I wouldn't think would fall in your general government function.
We actually had it split out because we made that purchase. It was for a couple of different functions. So $950,000 of that was in fiscal year 13, and that was under CVCC, which is the education function. And then part of that was grouped with public safety, where we had purchased some land to make the driveway to the new law enforcement and detention center. So that was a previous year also. And then part of that was also listed with public buildings, which is in general government for the smaller building.
Okay. So it's kind of all over the place on that. We can't really say, I mean, a lot of that property, or most of it is going towards education, but we can't say, hey, it falls under the education expenditures. So it's split around that pie chart in several different areas and several different years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
One thing, when the 2014 fund balance numbers come in, is that something you could forward to us? Because kind of like to see if that's a trend
Yeah, that's something.
throughout, especially rural North Carolina.
That's something certainly that Jennifer will have access to. We can
Okay.
shoot her, we
Okay.
can shoot her a reminder, but I'll be honest with you, it's probably gonna be May-ish
Okay.
before you see those numbers. May or June is normally when they come out with those memos, so.
Also, could we do kind of some peer analysis of maybe some counties that are, kind of look like us from a population, rural, heavily weighted on property tax versus sales tax? I mean, to me, I think that's how you kind of pick who you're comparing yourself to see.
And one good resource that you personally can do some of this is the Local Government Commission has what they call, they have like a benchmarking. They call it their dashboard. You can actually go in and kind of, for lack of a better term, cherry pick. I just want to pick unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 and see how we stack up. So there are tools out there that you can do that.
Okay.
The danger sometimes about a population group is a population group 25 to 50,000, and let's be perfectly honest, there's some units you don't want to emulate. I mean, your fund balance in your population group, if I remember correctly, ranges anywhere from 10-ish%. I think there's somebody in your group that has 80% fund. I mean, so it ranges from one extreme to another, and it can greatly skew some things. So, yeah, I'm kind of a big fan of find someone you want to emulate that offers substantially the same services, same population, and compare apples to apples. And they do have some resources to help you do that at the Local Government Commission website through their dashboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
And Jennifer and her crew did a good job, and we appreciate that. And so that worked out real well. I'm extremely pleased that I'm more pleased about the fund balance than anything, because I was one of these people that was, I think anyone sitting here would tell you that whenever they talked to me, I told them, I said, get ready, because I said, we're probably looking at a 14% fund balance or 15%, and then for it to come out to be almost 20%, I'm extremely thrilled. And I thank our staff, the administration with the leadership of Mr. French and our finance department, and all of our employees. They've done a good job of making sure that the money's utilized in the way that it should be. And but we appreciate the job that you did doing this audit.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Jennifer.
Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate what you just said. I want to thank Mr. French, Jennifer Herman, the finance director, all the department heads, and all the employees. You guys have done a great job watching the money in your different departments, and we appreciate everything that you do.
I know, I understand. I'm getting there. Okay. I was about to forget it, I'll be honest with you. I think Mr. French had to remind me that I had to approve this audit, that we had to approve this audit, not a I, we. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the audit that was presented.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise. Thank you very much. Good job. Item number 3 on the agenda tonight is Retail Market Research and Strategic Plan Overview. And at this time, I'd like to call on our EDC Director, Mr. David Eisenhower.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to talk with you about retail development in Alexander County. And as you all know, we've talked about for some time the need to make improvements in this area in terms of improving sales tax revenues in the county, and in terms of making improvements for citizens and for opportunities for retail purchases and for retail employment. So recently, to assist us in this goal, the Economic Development Board of Directors, along with support from you as county commissioners, have entered into a contract with a company called Retail Strategies. Retail Strategies is one of the top consulting and companies in the United States in terms of helping communities identify retail gaps and helping them identify likely prospects to fill those gaps. We've entered into this on a 3-year contract. We're still very early in the process, but one of the first steps in this process is the development of the strategic plan, which helps you understand where you are in terms of retail and where you may be able to go in terms of retail development. So the strategic plan review is really why we're here tonight, and I have 3 people with me, one of whom you know very well, but I'm going to introduce Gary Herman is Small Business Development Coordinator for the EDC, and Gary's been involved in this project from early on, and he will be heavily involved in this project as we go forward. To present the plan, I have with us from Retail Strategies, Lacey Beasley and Laura Hudson, and they're going to come up, and they're the stars of the show, and they're going to come up and together they're going to present this strategic plan, following which time you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions, make any comments that you want to. So, ladies?
Thank you, David, for that introduction, and David and Gary have been amazing to work with. Retail Strategies is so excited to be engaged with Alexander County, and as David properly introduced us, we are a consultant firm that works with municipalities, work with about 100 municipalities in 18 states. So what we want to go through is our findings of the strategic plan, and keeping in mind what this is it's not just a study that sits on the shelf. A part of our engagement is a 3-year contract where we're a partnership with you, and this plan will constantly adapt and change and grow as the marketplace changes. So retail is a very dynamic and fast changing of all the commercial real estate sectors. I think it's one of the fastest changing, and so that's where we work with you to implement this plan. So we want to go through some of our findings today at a high level and then just entertain any questions you might have. So let's go ahead. So I'll start with our research. What we've done is, from the past, it was very difficult to get your hands on basic research. Well, now there's a lot of data out there. It's big data. And if you'll indulge me for a minute, and a good example of this is, what is America's favorite pie?
Apple.
Apple. Everybody knows America's favorite pie is apple. When the manufacturers started selling individual pies, Apple did not sell well at all. And what they found out is Apple's actually America's second favorite pie. It was a family pleaser, so the large pies always sold in Apple because you could please everyone, but the individual pies, Apple's actually the second favorite. Everybody likes another pie better than Apple. So this is an example of big data and how it's being used now. We have all this data that's coming in, so what we've done for you, let's go ahead and next slide, we have hundreds of different reports we run on the marketplace. They provide a variety of different things from your population, income, people per household. It goes into actual individual sectors about people's likelihood to purchase sporting products, entertainment products, pet products. It's a lot of data that comes together. So we run all those things, and we have that all in an online project management software. It's a database called Basecamp, which your team, Gary and David, have access to. So we're going to hit on a few of those on a high level here today, and knowing that you can go much deeper in this data. So let's go ahead and go to the next one.
And as a side note, all of the demos and reports that we run are on demand. So anytime, we've got all the reports that we run that we need for our retail recruitment side, but if there's ever anything else that you need, or if you have a concerned citizen that's questioning something, or maybe a local entrepreneur who's asking about, something for their local store, we can pull that for them. Also for industrial use, data's data, so that could be transferred over that way too. So here, retailers look at mile radiuses as well as drive times. And so we've kind of broken that down on both. So we've got your 5, 10, and 15 mile radius for population, median household income here for 2014 and then 2019. So you can see your projected growth here. So we've got, real quick, 5 mile radius at 16.9, 10 mile at 50,518, and 15 mile radius at 144. So this can be used for retailers because each retailer has a specific criteria that they look for. And oftentimes, population, median household income, traffic counts, all that fun stuff goes into it. So we're able to kind of cater that to see what you have versus what matches up with the retailers. Here we've got the 10-minute, 15-minute, and 20-minute drive time, which is a little different. It's a little more accurate, too, because radius rings can incorporate water, forests, parks, all that stuff. So with the drive times, it's a little more realistic. So we've got for 10-minute, 14,700, 15-minute, 24,009, and then 20-minute, 52,000. And the median household income, I guess,
Yeah, you can, so the good news is it's increasing. Your income's increasing, your population's increasing, these are all good things. And retailers really like to cluster, so what they want to do, we use the center point is whatever that major retail node is. And we've done this for the different communities within the county, giving this same kind of overview. So all the reports are readily available, but then as Laura mentioned, then you can drill down and do a specific project, especially for your local businesses as well, or an entrepreneur coming in. So keeping in mind that this isn't just about recruiting in new big national retailers, although that is our primary focus. There's a lot of data here that can also apply to existing businesses. So we'll go ahead, and we won't go through each one of these, but you can see how there's different levels of population, and what we want to do is back in and customize these reports for each community as the retailers match them. And let's go ahead and go to the next one. Bethlehem has an incredible opportunity as well. We see Taylorsville is number one, and Alexander County, and then Bethlehem is number two. They have a very high income in this area, and the close proximity to Hickory also serves them very well. So of the four markets where we ran the demographics as far as population density and income, these two we believe currently have the highest potential for new retail. And what these are is a series of thematic maps. So what thematics map do is show all that data visually. So it takes it down by census block groups and shows color coding. I know it's a little bit hard to see on this screen, but these are 11 by 17 PDF files that we share with the marketplace. And this one shows population density, for instance. So you can see geographically where the most population lives. And this is typically done on a square mile ratio. So it doesn't mean that that number of people actually live in that block. It's more done on a ratio by census block. So let's go to the next one. This one is retail expenditures. So you can see where the heaviest commercial corridors are, where people are spending their money. Let's go to the next one. And median age is broken down here because, as Laura mentioned earlier, each retailer has a different set of criteria that they like, and age does matter. It makes a difference if you're Route 21 and your target market is females from age 14 to 21 versus being Fred's Dollar Store. They like a higher people of about 55 and over. So age matters, and we'll go to the next one. And we also, in our files, have income as well. So moving forward, this is tapestry segmentation. I'll let Laura talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what this does is basically breaks down, there's 67 different segmentations, and it pretty much breaks down and stereotypes each community. So in the tapestry segmentation, it'll say, if you'll go to the next slide, we have that your stereotypical core customer is 49, almost 50% Southern satellites. So what this is it breaks it down to what the people enjoy doing, what they do for a living. So many own pets. They work in their own vegetable gardens. They might own equipment such as riding lawnmowers and tillers to help with outdoor chores. Median household income is $37,185. So all that information it's not exactly who you are, but it's your dominant core customer. So this helps retailers market to you and look at who you are. So oftentimes when a retailer asks somebody from a city or county, who is Alexander County? What's the dominant core customer here? They're typically going to tell them what they are and what their family looks like from a demographic standpoint. But when in actuality, it's probably could be different. So this just stereotypes the city and county as a whole.
And it's interesting to me, 50% is a strong number. That's within a 20-minute drive time of Taylorsville, and So it kind of says that there's not a lot of diversity. A lot of people here are the exact same. And it also helps the retailers in marketing as well. It talks about how they like country music, primarily drive a pickup truck, and entertainment is NASCAR and bowling, things along those lines.
I'm surprised at the one thing in there that, the computer not wanting to get on the internet and not, I mean, that really surprised me because, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, it was there while it was there. I mean, to see the computer technology and the number of people that I continue to hear in this county would like to have internet service, that one surprised me,
Well, and keeping in mind, this is a general kind of
I
stereotype,
understand, yeah.
so yeah. It's always good to hear, and that's what I really like about the partnership that we have, is any of this that we pull that you might look at and say, that just doesn't seem right, then we can always go back and be sure that we're telling your story. So there's a big part of this is speaking that retail language, so we go out to the industry and we know what they want to hear and how they want to hear it, but being able to tell your local story is a big part of it. And as we continue this 3-year engagement, then we just want to continue to hear from you so that we're sure that we're representing you properly to the marketplace. Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
So we also do a peer analysis, which Commissioner Campbell brought up in the previous presentation, and we'll show you a little bit about what we do here. So we've identified cities and counties in the region that demographically, size, and makeup look like Alexander County. So here we look at what retailers these cities and counties have that you don't, and we're able to match up, and it helps us with our prospect list. So that's something that we think is really critical, a real critical component to our retail recruitment process.
So understanding the site selection, we've got to keep up with these trends. So the retailers that come out, a lot of them come out quarterly and say whether they're growing more or contracting or relocating. And so we're keeping our pulse on that. We go to all the ICSC shows, which is International Council of Shopping Centers, and we show them your market. We're there as an advocate for you. So your current retail overview is this aerial map, and this is what a lot of the retailers, the way that they want to view a market is really through pictures, a lot more than words, and so the aerial map is a critical component of that, of your shopping centers as they exist today. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. And what's important about telling your local message, as I mentioned earlier, is beyond the demographics, what are your economic drivers? So we have the area employers and area schools, and this is a part of the marketing flyer, so that they can see what is the daytime population here as people. If you're Dunkin' Donuts and you want to be on the AM side of the road, where are people dropping their kids off in school and going home so that they're on that AM side of the road? Where are they going to work? Or a grocery store wants to be on the PM side of the road so you can take a ride in and a ride out, not have to cross. And so that's where the other component of this, your local message, it's so important to say, where are the major employers? Where are the major schools?
So here we have identified retail prospects based off of our gap analysis right here. And again, Lacey mentioned people in the retail industry like to look at pictures. They don't like to read. So here we have it in a little pie chart. And we've broken it down by sector here. So general merchandise stores have the largest gap at 22%, followed by full and limited service restaurants, pharmacy and drugs, grocery stores, and the list goes on. So this helps us identify, for those of you who don't know what a gap analysis is, it's also known as a leakage report, and it quantifies the dollars being spent by your residents outside of the county. So here we have it broken down in numbers, for those of you who like to see numbers and not pictures. And you can see the gap amount within the drive time and the number of retailers that each sector could support, and the number of potential square feet. So this is what we call our 100% batting average. So this is our goal, and this is where our starting point, really, of where we look at all the sectors and break it down and say, okay, within each of these sectors, who's expanding, what are they doing, did they meet your criteria, what's their criteria versus what you have that we found in our analysis through all the reports, and really just start connecting the dots. So here we have, again, another aerial where we've carved out new development and redevelopment zones, which is huge when it comes to presenting to developers and brokers and really selling the county. When we go to all the ICSC shows, when we're calling and emailing these retailers, brokers, and developers on a daily and weekly basis, we're able to kind of carve out and say, okay, here's where we know new development, where it would be an option versus redevelopment. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and this is for Taylorsville, and we are going to expand this throughout the county and the other communities within, so this is our starting point. But for each one of these points, then we are in the process right now of identifying all the details of it, the asking price, the point of contact, everything that we need to know about it, so we're ready to go, because time kills all deals. And so we want to have all the information ready and available so we can react to the marketplace and be an advocate for you.
And this is also constantly changing. Places are always coming on the market and going off the market, so we stay on top of that.
Are these sites identified as actively for sale on here that are numerical?
Not all of them are.
Okay.
Some of them are highest and best use.
Okay.
So we looked at some that said, this might be an intersection that isn't on the market currently, but we believe it's a good potential for, let's say, for instance, a pharmacy. They require a very particular piece of real estate, and if there's an option for somebody to perhaps relocate their business.
Okay.
Yep.
So here is your marketing guide when it comes to implementation. We mentioned before when we're reaching out at the ICSC shows and the other regional and national shows and calling on the retailers and brokers, we've got this marketing guide with all of the fun information consolidated into one piece of paper, essentially. So as Lacey mentioned before, the economic drivers, we've got fun facts, we've got the gap analysis at the bottom, and then we've got your radius rings and drive times on the right, along with a snapshot of the demographic profile. And then on the inside is your aerial map with all the existing retail that you saw previously.
So our recruitment objectives over the next 3 years, and we've kind of hit on some of this, but it's to just continue to be an advocate for you within the marketplace. Talk to the brokers, the retailers, the developers, and any kind of customized materials that you want to use us as a resource. We have about 7 different software subscriptions with over 500,000 different variables. So we want to maintain that what we've put together and continue to build it and work with your local brokerage community. And they use us as a resource just to help them in any way that we can to bring new retail to the market. Based on what we just covered, it looks like between property tax and sales tax, that's almost 70% of your budget. So we very much appreciate you recognizing that and making an investment in this. And we're very excited about this partnership and hope to see some progress as we continue over the next 3 years with you.
Good.
And this is Basecamp, which we referenced earlier in the presentation. This is the web-based platform that we use for communication, sharing files, sending messages back and forth. So all of the demos, all of the reports that we've run, we're going to upload them to Basecamp. And it is based off of a username and password protected. So David and there's only going to be a couple people on that to kind of consolidate communication. So anytime that anybody has a question of like, oh, we would love to have this certain type of report run, you can go to him and then he can ask us through there and we'll pop it in there and he can send it out that way. So it's really easy. We put the strategic plan in there. We put all of the updates as we're going through and calling on the retailers and the brokers and the developers. We pop all that information in there. Spoke to so-and-so retailer, here's what they said, here's their feedback, or waiting to hear back from them, or meeting with them at this show. And it's just a real easy way to keep it all consolidated and to know what's going on. Do you have any questions?
I do. Basecamp, is that a proprietary software system to you guys, or is that, okay. So the commercial real estate brokers can access Basecamp and?
Oh, so, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. So it is password protected. We have our own account, if you will.
Right.
So there's going to be an Alexander County account, and the only people that can access it is our team and whoever you guys want to be on it, which we usually recommend under 5 people.
We end up posting confidential information on there, so typically we like to keep that to a limited amount of people for interaction. But if you have, like Gary or David, if you want to run a request through them, that's how we typically recommend we do it. Now, there is an option if, as far as information sharing, an alternative, if you wanted to share all this information with the brokerage community, we could set up a Dropbox account and put all those files in there, and that could be something that you could share a link and they could get in and dig in the information. What we found a lot of times is there's so many reports, it's very overwhelming. And so even though that's made available, it's not something that's used very often.
Well, how do you contact the local commercial real estate brokers?
We have a team, and so we're just getting started, so we'll start doing that next in our process. So Emily Stewart is also on our team. We have 25 people within our company, but we're a team of 3 that will start calling on the local brokerage network. Are you an agent? Or?
Well, I do have my real estate broker's license, but no, I'm not a practicing agent now. Josh there is,
Okay.
so.
We do welcome warm introductions to the brokerage community, but in the event that doesn't happen, we'll just pick up the phone and call them and introduce ourselves, tell them what we're doing for the county, and go from there.
Okay.
And typically, they're pretty receptive once they figure out that we're there to help. So.
Right, okay.
I have a question. Looks like you've done a pretty thorough job in compiling the results, but you mentioned shows. Do you take our information to places like in other states and other areas, and you're showing them that we like NASCAR and country music? So maybe we can get Blake Shelton to come and give us a. But no, how much time have you spent so far compiling, this information that that we have today? Is it pretty in depth?
It was about 90 days ago, our contract was signed, so first 90 days are putting it all together, and now the future will be about going out and marketing it. So we go to several different shows. One of them that's coming up is the Carolinas, ICSC Carolinas. I did Exchange in Charlotte in March, but we also go to New York. There's one in Las Vegas, Orlando, Dallas, Chicago, Nashville. So these shows are all over the country. There's about a dozen that our team attends, and we take your materials to all those shows.
Okay, so it'd be like retail, like actually Gap clothing stores, Target, places like that, or, okay.
That's exactly right. The large one is in Las Vegas in May,
Las
and
Vegas.
it's called Recon, and there's about 35,000 people attend, 1 million square feet of exhibitor space, and it's a very large show, and exactly as you said, they are all there.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot.
Typically, are you seeing most of the people expanding, developers developing, leasing back to the retail tenant versus the retail tenant deploying their capital for the dirt, so to speak?
We are seeing that. It varies. It definitely does. But, in the marketplace, it's been, during the recession, there was just very limited new construction, and retailers were looking to fill that second generation space where a lot of retailers closed and left vacancies. Then they'd come in and fill that space because they could get in for reduced rent. And what we've seen this year is new development is back, which is very good. Last year, in 2014, it was a lot of single tenant, or you get a little strip center with 3 tenants was what it was. And now we're actually seeing power centers come back that are 100,000 square feet and more, and outlet malls are coming back as well. So it's coming back on board, but what's happened is what the retailers are willing to pay really hasn't increased, but the cost of development has. So we're seeing the public sector really step in and take a role in that and doing a lot more public-private partnerships, which are making these developments happen that didn't happen during the recession. But it's a great question. It definitely varies. And you look at McDonald's, people think they're a hamburger company. They're actually more of a real estate company. So yeah, that's a good example where some like to own and then some like to just lease it.
I'm sorry, were you done, Milton?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Reports and planning documents. I've been on the board for 6 years, so I've been around for a while. Local government, state government, federal governments are very good at spending money on plans and reports, and then they go on a shelf and nothing happens with them. So how are we going to hold your feet to the fire, and how are you going to hold our feet to the fire to make sure that we implement the recommendations in this plan?
Well, it's a great question, and that's really what's so exciting about Retail Strategies is we work with you to implement. So going to all these shows, so each show they're all staged about 2 months apart. So every single show that we go to, then you're in our portfolio of cities that we're going out and setting meetings for and advocating for. So that's a huge part of it. And then Emily Stewart, who's not with us today, she doesn't travel with us because she stays at the office and makes phone calls. So she's the one that's in charge of calling all the prospects that we have identified for your market. We have identified about 30 prospects, and so now we're in that next stage of getting to the right piece of property versus the right contact and trying to make matchmaker with those. So then we post all that to the basecamp message board, and so you can monitor that, your team can monitor it at any time.
And those prospects are constantly changing because retail constantly changes, you know, who's expanding, who's closing. So that list of 30 might be a totally different list 6 months down the road. So it's constantly evolving and changing. So that's what Emily's staying on top of. Well, all of us are, but Emily more directly.
How often are you guys going to be back so that we can meet at the EDC or, have a teleconference, just so that we're, all on the same page and working towards the same goal?
Yeah, we can do it whatever you need.
Okay.
We're here to be, whatever works for you.
Okay.
We're in this area a lot, even though we're based out of Birmingham. We're here at least twice a month, I think, in this area.
And we
Okay.
like open communication. So if
Yes.
you ever have any questions or want to know what's going on that's not in base camp, we're more than happy. We have our cell phone numbers on our business cards. So,
Yes, call us anytime.
yeah.
Okay.
I just, you finish, Brian?
Yeah, I hate emailing back and forth, trying to talk to people, so I'd rather pick up the phone or send a text message, so that's my preferred way of communicating.
I just have one other question, like, I guess you do other counties similar to our size. What's your rate of success, would you say, a percentage of landing businesses after so many opportunities, or,
I don't have an actual number for you broken down, but our website is full of success stories. So you can see a lot of other communities where we worked and somehow made a connection that has, helped the county bring new retail that might not have happened otherwise. So I don't have an actual number for you right now. And a lot of this is 3-year engagements, and the company's about 4 years. So we are still young as we're developing, and you'll see a lot of success stories in Alabama because that's where the company started. And we've been working in North Carolina for about a year now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
In regard to the sites you've selected, do they have the proper infrastructure to them? Are they ready to go vertical or could be ready to go vertical? Or do we have work we need to do there?
That's what I was going to ask too. Did you look at the zoning and the infrastructure in place for these, intersections where development could occur?
We did not. That'll be
Okay.
a part of our due diligence going forward. We have not done that yet and definitely would want to rely on you to help us navigate that process.
All right.
Well, that'll be something the Economic Development Department will already know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that those guys will be willing to jump up there front and center and say, this is where it's happening. But, I got some questions, but I can reserve those to ask David and those guys because it gets a little bit more technical than some of the things I'd want to ask. But,
I will add, while you're here and in front of us, Mr. Chairman, we do have some places where we have to go back and look at zoning and make some changes to our zoning. So that's one thing I would like to incorporate your study and some of your information into doing that with. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing more out of you, and we look more toward the success.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The success, that's what we're after.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
We're a small rural community, and we need some more in this county to happen.
Well, and just a side note, if you will tell everyone you know to spend their money locally, it really makes a difference.
We do all we
because
can.
Retailers talk to each
Right,
other
they
and
do.
they say, how are your sales volumes? And that really makes our job a lot easier if people are we talked about internet, but even when you purchase online, it's considered a leakage.
It's a
So
leakage.
if they could spend it locally in this bricks and mortar, then they start telling the good news. All the retailers tell it to each other, and it helps the recruitment process.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, David. Gary, thank you. Item number 4 on the agenda tonight, new deviated fixed route for Alexander County Camille Sterling with the Western Piedmont Regional Transportation Authority.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a handout here. May I hand it to?
They all have copies.
This is a little bit additional.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening to talk about public transportation in Alexander County. Just to provide a brief update to you, there's a few new faces that I did not see last time. Congratulations on your positions. I look forward to working with you. My name is Camille Sterling. I'm the Executive Director for Greenway Public Transportation. We serve Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, and Catawba counties with demand response service, so call-ahead service to schedule a ride. Also deviated fixed routes, which I'll talk about today in a little bit more in detail. Fixed route in the cities of Conover, Newton, and Hickory. And we also work with the county agencies and cities to provide some service within those organizations or for those organizations. The West Taylorsville bus service is a new service that will be offered in this area. It's a new service by title and by description. It does not mean that we are providing additional service to an area. What we're doing is working within existing grants to work with one grant and match another with that grant so that the transportation service can be offered more fully and also to utilize the funds to their fullest potential. The other is to work within existing route structures and areas served and the ridership within that area that has grown over a specific amount of time. Under the West Taylorsville bus service, there's a few facts about this particular route. One is that the current West Taylorsville bus service is offered 3 times a day on Mondays and Wednesdays, and this excludes holidays. The bus stop's located out in the rural part of, or right outside of Taylorsville at the Millstead Mobile Home Park / Herman Road area, which is the tail end of an existing route, so we would go from one route to the next. And Food Lion, that's a bus stop, and also Walmart on Highway 16 South here in Taylorsville. The reason for the feeder service or the service coming from a rural area into Taylorsville is to feed into the existing Taylorsville bus service, which offers service on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This service is Mondays and Wednesdays, and it would be within the Taylorsville bus service hours. This would mean that people from the area could ride in and then utilize the existing service, which is free, to pay bills, to shop, and to be able to go to the library, to use the internet, the senior center, the Department of Social Services, care centers. There's a lot of opportunities and places that people can go within Taylorsville. The route is approximately 4.1 miles, and the deviation on either side of this route will be 3/4 of a mile. What this means is there'll be same-day service at the bus stops, and any service in between that where the route would deviate off 3/4 of a mile to pick someone up that is not along the actual service stops or at the service stops, they would call ahead by noon the day before. The fare structure for people, a single ride would be $1.25, and reduced fare is 60 cents for persons who's 65 years and older or disabled. There are passes that can be purchased, but for 2 days a week, I would not recommend buying a pass because it would cost you more to buy a pass than it would to pay an individual fare to ride the service. This is just our current fare structure for all of our deviated fixed routes. The route leaves the Millstead Mobile Home Park Lane, Herman Road area 3 times at 11 a.m., 1:45 p.m., and 3 o'clock p.m., and returns from Walmart at 2:15 p.m. and 4:15 p.m. You'll see on page 2 that the route leaves the area of the first bus stop, travels along Highway 64 east to 90 east to 16 south to Walmart. Greenway Public Transportation will receive information regarding the times and days until the last week in January. What we're doing at this time is finding out if there's any public comment in regards to the times and areas served, and also if the route needs to extend further out into the county. There are funds that are available for this route to make it as successful as possible. This is 2 different grants that we have that we are having work with one another so that we don't utilize too much of one grant to serve that community. Anyone who would like to provide public comment may contact me, Camille Sterling, and my phone number is 828-465-7642, or by email at csterling@wprta.org. They can also call our information line at 828-464-9444 for more information. It takes approximately 1 to 3 months to really get the word out and have people scheduled into the route and come off of the existing structure, which is called demand response. So right now, if somebody wants to come to Taylorsville from that area, then they would call and they would schedule a ride, and we would work within the existing route structure to bring someone in. The existing fare is $2.50. The fare structure for the deviated fixed route for someone who is disabled is 60 cents. So this will help someone who's on a fixed income and to provide more opportunities for someone to come into Taylorsville and be independent in their homes. Does anyone have any questions at this time with the information I've presented? Mr. Chairman, may I provide an update in regards to the last meeting? Commissioner Jennings had asked me a question about the veterans transportation.
Yes.
Okay. In regards to the veterans transportation, Mr. Jennings or Commissioner Jennings had asked if our organization could meet with the Veterans Office and also DAV. We did that last Thursday, and what we did was provided information to the organization so that they will be able to provide that information to any veterans in the area. We do serve Salisbury VA and also Asheville VA and the Hickory office on certain days, and anyone interested in providing or receiving transportation to those areas can give us a call at the same information line of 464-9444. So we want to provide as much service to the veterans in the area, and some of them are unable to drive. The vehicles are equipped with lift vans or with lifts so that anyone who's in a walker, cane, or wheelchair will be able to access the transportation. And a person who pays a fare to go to any of those places would pay $2.50, and to some of those areas, and $5 each way to ones that are further, such as Winston-Salem. And if the person brings an attendant, the attendant rides for free.
When you said that, I want to make sure that I understand, are they also able to make an appointment to get transportation, or is it just going to be on limited days?
It depends on the day that a person wants to go, because there may be additional transportation offered by another organization on a separate day. So there are times when a veteran does need to go to a VA hospital on an alternate day that we offer it, but we do have set days that we offer transportation so that we take as many people as possible at one time.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that was clear.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to make one comment. I've noticed in the morning since I've been having to go to work at 6 a.m. that, I know it's funny, isn't it? But anyway, I've noticed that the transportation, they've been doing an extremely good job early in the morning of getting people here in our county to the kidney dialysis. And I've noticed that more and more, that they're picking them up and getting them there, and they're pulling in at 5:30, 5:45, and I'm like, man, you guys are really on the stick. And I just really appreciate the fact that that service is there and our citizens are able to utilize that, because it's very important to a lot of folks in our community that they are able to do that. I just want to say thank you for that service.
And thank you for saying that, because we appreciate the partnership with Alexander County.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Camille.
Number 5 on our agenda tonight is the law enforcement, LEPC 2014 Annual Report Hazardous Mitigation Plan, and I'll let Russell tell you what the LEPC is. Russell Green, our Emergency Services Director.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Commissioners. It's always a privilege to get to present the information. And I realized today, for the last several years, we've given an LEPC annual report, and I thought, I wonder how many people wonder what that is.
That's right.
So let me start by giving a little background. LEPC literally stands for the Local Emergency Planning Committee. But back in 1986, the President signed into law Superfund Amendments and Reauthorization Act, commonly called SARA. It's a freestanding law. The Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act of '86 was commonly called SARA Title III, to deal with all the hazardous chemicals. Okay? And I'm make this short and sweet, but the intent was to help American communities deal safely and effectively with the many hazardous substances that are used throughout our society. And you think about the companies that we have that transport stuff every day up and down the highways. And to facilitate that, the Act established an ongoing forum at the local level called the Local Emergency Planning Committee, and that's what we're here to talk about. As part of that, and as part of some of our grant funding from the state, we're required to have an active local emergency planning committee, and once a year make an annual report to the commissioners. You as a board appoint the members of this committee, and you'll be doing that later tonight. I think that's on your agenda for appointments later. The report is actually in your packet, and I'm not going to read it word for word unless you just want me to. The more important part about our local emergency planning committee, we meet 3 to 4 times a year, and Alexander County locally, we have taken that group from just looking at the Tier 2 hazardous materials reports. We actually locally, we utilize our local emergency planning committee. It's made up of county staff and members of the community, businessmen. Actually, Micah, the reporter from the Times, is one of our members. We actually utilize that committee to review the large events that happen with emergency services. At our next meeting, and we probably won't meet in January because we typically do that one via email, but at our next meeting, we'll be talking about that fire that you recognize officers for. We'll get that committee, and I've learned over the years that perspective from all those individuals is invaluable information. Their review of what we do, nobody's perfect. We can always learn from the things we do. So using those folks has been invaluable for my office to do those things. You can see in your report, and I'll get to this, we have to submit an annual report, so we did an email meeting. We're not a group that thinks we need to meet just to be meeting. So if we can get by with an email vote on an agenda or a report, we'll do that, and we'll submit it. We met in May. We heard committee reports from all the different agencies that are represented. We met again in August. Sometimes we have some very interesting topics, and you'll notice that we talk about a little bit of everything, but you'll notice in the August meeting, our health director reported that the TB case is under control and the patient was off house arrest. Not everybody in this county needs to know that we have TB patients in their own house arrest or where they live, but this committee is able to give her some insight in some of the things that we do, so we're very appreciative of them. And we met again in November for our last meeting of the year, and that pretty much, and like I said, that report is included in your packet. We always talk about the grant funding that we receive. This past year, Alexander County is very fortunate in the fact that we received grant funding to purchase a prime mover. It's 100% federal funding to purchase a piece of equipment to move many of the trailers that we have across the county. So we're very fortunate in that, and that application stuff comes from these folks and what they do. I can tell you that they approved an application for a hazardous materials emergency planning grant. We have been awarded that grant. We have started planning for that exercise. That will happen sometime this summer, probably in the month of May. We actually have a contractor we've met one time, and we will utilize those funds, some $9,000 odd to do a hazardous material exercise here in the county with our emergency service folks. So we're very fortunate in that. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the LEPC before we talk about the hazard mitigation plan.
Any questions?
Boy, that must have been real boring. I'm sorry. But you've got it. The other thing I'm here for tonight is our great news that I got at 9 minutes after 5 today. Back in November, our hazard mitigation plan had expired with the federal government. And to be eligible for any federal reimbursement from disasters, you have to have an approved hazard mitigation plan. We were part, this last year, year and a half, of the Unifor Hazard Mitigation Plan study group and development group. That plan was submitted to the state for review, submitted to FEMA. FEMA kicked it back. We went back and forth. Our deadline was November the 15th. So at an October meeting in Raleigh, I was told, well, the problem that's holding it up has nothing to do with Alexander County. I said, so we're going to adopt it. So the Board of Commissioners adopted it, the Town Council adopted it. Provisionally, we adopted the draft. As of yesterday, it was still at FEMA for review. And as I said, at 5 o'clock today, I received, 5:09, I received an email. And the good thing is, we don't have to go back and look at it at all, because it says, I am pleased to report the Unifor Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan has been approved by FEMA as of January the 11th, 2015. Your new expiration date is January 11th, 2020. And because we had adopted it locally as a draft, we don't have to take any more actions, what the letter basically says. So I was going to tell you I'm still concerned about it. I came up, yesterday I was saying, well, I'm still concerned about it. But as of 9 minutes after 5 today, we're good. So that's I'm happy to be able to report that. Be happy to answer any questions about a hazard mitigation plan, if I can. We got all kind of plans, but I heard the commissioner say a little bit ago, plan's not any good if you just stick it on the shelf. So that's why we're always looking for those exercise dollars to be able to exercise our plans and get them off the shelf and knock the dust off of them.
Very good.
No questions? I'm going to
I'm good.
I'm just
How much-
glad you got a plan for us, so when we need it, it's there. That's a
Well,
good thing.
I think I said many years ago to a commissioner, when something's actually happening, we don't go get the plan off the shelf, but I think Commissioner at that time looked at me and he said, the thing about a plan is it's good because it brings all the people together that need to know what's happening. They get to interact, they get to talk it through, so everybody's on the same page, and I agree with that 100%. It's a great plan. But if there are no other questions, I'm expected at annual meeting in the fire department. Gentlemen, have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda tonight, sales tax report. I'd call on County Manager Rick French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet, you have information from our last sales tax receipts. Year-to-date sales tax received through the end of December, $1,254,000, which represents 34.8% of the budget collected, and of course 33.3% of the year that has expired. The sales tax money that we budgeted for this fiscal year was $3.6 million. We are almost 8% ahead of or increase from the same time last year. So sales tax dollars are picking up a little bit, so that's a good sign.
Very good.
I would think the chance for that to improve with fuel prices, that's put some discretionary income back in people's pockets every week.
I think
Probably
you're right.
average $25, $30 a week for people that drive.
At
any
least
distance.
$30. I agree. And spend it locally. Spend it locally. Item number 7, board appointments and reappointments. I'd call on County Manager, Mr. Rick French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appointments for tonight, the Building Services Advisory Committee, reappoint for 1 year, Clint Canaday, Larry Jenkins, Brent Fox, Mark Foy, Tony Lackey, David Land, Darrell Robertson, Commissioner Ryan Mayberry, Lynn Teague, Bert Gibson, and Seth Harris. The Joint Nursing and Adult Care Community Advisory Committee for 3 years, reappoint Mary Inman. The Local Emergency Planning Committee, appoint Dennis James for 3 years, Bob Johnson, Patty Foster, Seth Harris, and Commissioner Milton Campbell for 3 years. Planning and Zoning Commission, reappoint Coy Reese for 2 years. Veterans Committee, appoint Berkey Jennings as an at-large member. The County Commissioner appointments, appoint Commissioner Milton Campbell to the Ag Extension Advisory Committee, Finance Committee, JCPC, LEPC, Personnel Committee, Voluntary Farmland Preservation Program Board, and Western Piedmont Council of Government Policy Board alternate. Appoint Commissioner Josh Lael to Comprehensive Plan Committee, CVCC Alexander Center Advisory Board, DSS Board, Minimum Housing Committee, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Partnership for Children Board of Director. appoint Commissioner Ronnie Reese to Council on Aging Committee, Library Board, Senior Center Advisory Committee, Unifor Air Quality Committee, and Veterans Committee. We still have some vacancies as noted in your packet. Mr. Chairman, we need a motion to approve those appointments tonight.
I entertain a motion at this time to approve the appointments as they have been read out.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the appointments and reappointments.
Second.
Motion's made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Item number 8, budget ordinance amendments number 18 through 20, project budget ordinance P2. Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get started, just want to mention last night our Finance Committee met, which is Chairman Larry Yoder and Commissioner Milton Campbell, and we talked about a number of things. We also reviewed these budget amendments. Budget amendment number 18 is to increase the planning budget to amend contract with Western Piedmont Council of Governments to expand planning assistance from 1 day per week to 3 days per week from February through June 2015, to increase the Register of Deeds budget for accrued leave payout due to employee leaving county employment. Vacation time payouts were not included in the original budget, to increase the sheriff's budget for accrued leave payouts due to employee leaving county employment, and to two employees receiving comp time payouts during July 2014 because they had reached the 480-hour comp time limit. Also, vacation holiday comp time payouts were not included in the original budget. Also, to increase the detention budget for accrued leave payout due to employee transferring from full-time to part-time status. Vacation time payouts were not included in the original budget. That's budget amendment number 18. Budget amendment 19 is to increase the Health Department budget for additional immunization funding, to increase the DSS budget, to use $50 of adult services donation revenue that was received in May of 2014 but was not included in the fiscal year 2015 expense budget due to the timing of the donation, to increase DSS budget to spend down the final $33 of donations received in prior years for heating assistance, to increase EMS budget for startup costs of hiring 5 new part-time EMT paramedics, third person initial ride time of 40 hours, which is $592 per new hire, plus $200 per new hire for uniforms, to increase the EMS budget for accrued leave payout due to 2 employees transferring from full-time to part-time status and the retirement of 1 employee. Vacation time payouts were not included in the original budget. To increase the EMS budget to pay for the tax and tag, which is $3,906 on the new ambulance, and to purchase a power stretcher for the new ambulance, which is $14,976. Budget amendment number 20 is to budget for payment to the school system pass-through funds from NCDOT's purchase of school property on White Plains Road for the bridge replacement near East Alexander Middle School, and to increase the general fund budget for Alexander County matching portion of the North Carolina Commerce Grant for the Precision Materials Building Expansion Grant Project. And then you have Project Ordinance P2, which is Precision Materials Building Reuse Grant Expansion Project, which is a county match of 5%, which is $7,500 for $150,000 worth from revenue from the North Carolina Department of Commerce for a project that we talked about earlier. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve budget ordinance amendments 18, 19, and 20.
Second. There's been a motion to approve budget ordinance 18, 19, and 20.
Wait, we missed one.
I missed one? Oh,
You missed one, the.
oh,
the
P2,
project
I'm
budget-
sorry.
Budget
Yes.
ordinance, P2.
Let me change my motion. I move to approve budget ordinance amendments 18, 19, 20, and ordinance number P2.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Item number 9 on the agenda, other business. County Manager's report, Mr. French.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things to mention that's in the information that you have in your packet. One is that each month we receive a report from the detention administrator, Mike Harrison, and you have that in your packet. The average total per day for the month of December of inmates is 111 inmates. Average male population per day, which was 100 inmates, and then female population was right at 10, between 10 and 11. The high male population day was December 19th. We had 116 inmates. The high female population day was December 5th. We had 19 female inmates. Also, it should be noted that on Friday, December 12th, Wilkes County came and removed all their inmates for housing in their new facility. So we currently have no Wilkes County inmates at our facility. Also, Chairman Larry Yoder, Vice Chairman Ryan Mayberry, and I will be attending the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference later this week, January 15th and 16th. Chairman Yoder also attending another meeting earlier. County offices will be closed January 19th for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and our next meeting will be February 2nd. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the report, Mr. Chairman.
Does anyone have any questions they'd like to address to the county manager at this time?
Mr. French, one question about the jail population. That includes the inmates from Caldwell County, is that correct?
It does, yes, sir.
Okay. How many, how many?
32.
32.
Yes, sir.
And effective January 1, if I'm not mistaken, I think the new law took effect to where 6 months or less will be serving their time in the local county jail. You'll be finding that there'll be a lot of DUI or anything that consists of a 6 month jail sentence or less. They will serve their time in the local county jail. The state will be picking up the tab for that. So they will reimburse the counties for those folks who are incarcerated due to violating the laws of North Carolina. So that also will bring revenue back to the county.
Mr. Chairman.
And expenses.
And expenses, yes, thank you. Expenses, yes.
Mr. Chairman, do you know what the reimbursement rate is on that?
I'm thinking it's $45
Per day?
per day, yes. I'm pretty sure that's right. Don't hold me to that number because I've actually not seen that number, but for some reason that sticks out in my mind as to what it is. I'll find out more.
Similar rate to what we've been paid by others, so
That's
really
right.
no loss of revenue, and really, if we've been housing those others, we've been incurring that expense. If our occupancy's the same,
Yes, sir. That's
Right.
correct.
shouldn't have a significant change in revenue versus expenses either.
Shouldn't have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are those the only two counties we have a contract to keep inmates from other counties? Or
Caldwell,
Caldwell
and
Wilkes, I
and we had Wilkes, but Wilkes built a new jail. They used the same architect that we did. It's all basically the same design as ours. That's the only one at that time that I know of that we had a contract with was Caldwell County.
Currently, that's right.
Currently, yes,
Yes, sir.
currently,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Thank
Yeah, but once Wilkes County built their new jail, they were tickled to death to come get their inmates. You know, and and I'm glad they built them a new jail, so, you know, I hate it for our revenue source, but at the same time,
We've got a vacancy.
we
sign.
have a vacancy side. The light's on, you know, the light's on, you know, so, I mean, I don't have to say that. I don't want to go spend the night there. I'd rather go out to the golf course and spend the night out there.
I'll just stay at
So-
home. I'll stay at home.
Me too. you know.
$45 a day, that's a pretty good deal.
Well, plus, well, I'm not gonna go into all of it. I'll tell you some other things about it, but this is not the time or the place. I mean, it's, the medical's taken care of too, in case y'all wondered about that. If you're in jail, your medical's taken care of. You get 3 meals, place to stay, you get exercise program, you get TV. And I don't know, but I'm telling y'all, I mean, the jail's nice, and it's really sad that we don't have a hospital and we don't have some of the things we really need. But you can be locked up and you can have some of the nicest resources in the whole world. Of course, I don't want to eat prison food either, but I'm just saying that, you know, you get 3 squares a day and a place to stay for $45 a night, and any of us can stay in a motel anywhere and stay that cheap. So, let your conscience be your guide, is all I can say. Consent agenda, entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, consent agenda.
Motion's made, is there a second?
Second?
Motion's made and second, is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise. Mr. French, do we need a closed session?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
We have a short closed session.
We'll have a short closed session under North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, paragraph A, 1, 4, 5, and 6, to prevent disclosure of confidential information, economic development, contractual, and personnel. We will re-adjourn for the primary purposes of adjournment only. No action will be taken. Make that form of motion.
Second?
My second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Raise my left hand.